So we talked about a few days ago JROTC and how the War Department slash Department of Defense, quote unquote defense, um, is enacting various policies in order to get its recruitment enrollment up. Because we know that recruitment enrollment is low, thankfully, thank God for that. It's low concerning the U.S. military enrollment for the U.S. Army, the U.S. military, all of that kind of stuff. And so the U.S. War Department has been trying various ways to try to get recruitment enrollment up. And one of those ways we mentioned a few days ago was JROTC, and how students have been forced into the JROTC programs in their high schools without it being their choice, but without it being an elective. Here, there's another article, this time by Russia Today, that says U.S. military hires recruits diagnosed with behavioral disorder. And this is according to the Wall Street Journal. So the U.S. is very desperate when it comes to getting its recruitment enrollment up, and getting, weaponizing children or militarizing children through the JROTC program in programs in high school is one policy used to get recruitment enrollment up. Another one, and we're going to read this in a minute, is relaxing standards. And when I say relaxing, I mean letting go standards of actual, people with good mental health. Now they're willing to take anybody, including people with behavioral disorders. So let's get into this article. The Pentagon is changing its standards amidst the largest enlistment shortfall since 1973. That is wild. 1973. That's nearly 50 years. The U.S. military has allowed 700 recruits with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, to sign up after it rewrote its rules on which medical conditions bar applicants from joining, the Wall Street Journal WSJ reported on Tuesday. The 700 trainees were hired following a decision by the military in June to allow those who suffered from 38 medical conditions. And I tried to click on the article for the 38 medical conditions. There's a link, unfortunately, and this is from, where is this from? Washington Headquarters Services, but the link is broken. It doesn't work. To enlist, provided they hadn't demonstrated symptoms, which is kind of stupid. I mean, it's ridiculous to say you can have this ailment, but you can't demonstrate or show any symptoms. Of course they're going to show symptoms, whether you see them plainly, overtly, or not. They're going to show symptoms or needed treatment for between 3 to 7 years prior to signing up. These conditions, which include congenital heart defects and tuberculosis, were previously automatic disqualifiers. So it's various ailments, including and especially mental health ailments, that that were once barred. People who had them were barred from enlisting. Now they're able to join them because enlistment recruitment slash enrollment recruitment has been so far behind, thankfully, with the U.S. And so they're trying to make up pace by relaxing a lot of these health elements, including mental health elements, including heart defects, tuberculosis, congenital heart defects, tuberculosis, behavioral disorders, and so on. Army Secretary Christine Wormuth told the Washington Street Journal that the branch would assess the effectiveness of the program after a year of service by the recruits. We want to be cautious, Wormuth said. No, what they want is bodies. More bodies to throw at the war machine. Wormuth said, referring to hiring those with mental health conditions. I think we have to constantly be refreshing our approach and looking at conditions in this society. And the danger here they mentioned just now people with mental health conditions. The danger here is people with mental health conditions are susceptible to carrying out even more, not even more, but are more likely susceptible to carrying out war crimes. That's the big concern over here. As much of a war criminal as America and the United States is, and it is that, we just saw Iraq, we saw Afghanistan, we saw Somalia, where they were continuously bombing, Somalian civilians, despite pointing the finger at Russia, invading Ukraine. All of this took place on the same day, the very same day that Russia invaded Ukraine. The United States was bombing Somalia, and yet it was pointing its finger at Russia and talking about how unjust it was for Russia to invade Ukraine. The hypocrisy, the American/Western hypocrisy knows no bounds. The U.S. military is currently hiring from an increasingly unfit population. Unfit, when they say unfit, they mean physically unfit, meaning obese, overweight, that kind of stuff. With only 23% of young Americans meeting the required fitness standards, Wormuth told CNBC in October. Furthermore, only 9% of these 16 to 21-year-olds are interested in joining in the first place, she added. That's 9% too much. And that's who they want. They want 16 to 21-year-olds because they can shape and mold their minds. They can brainwash them. They're very easy. You're easily brainwashed when you're younger. And so that's why they want these 16 to 21-year-olds. Thankfully, it's only 9%, but even that 9% is way too high to join the U.S. military. But that's who they want. They want the young people, 16 to 21-year-olds. That's who they're targeting right after high school. People who don't know what they want to do with their lives. People with limited employment opportunities. And that's kind of also why they're restricting college and university opportunities, so that they can get more of these people who have limited opportunities to join the U.S. military, U.S. Army, and so on. This decline in fitness, exacerbated by a COVID-19 vaccine mandate and more tempting job offers from the private sector, that's another one. Not just college enrollment, college and university enrollment, but jobs from the private sector. That's another one that's competing with U.S. military enrollment. Led the Army to experience its worst year for recruitment this year since the abolition of the draft in 1973, according to Wormuth. At the end of the 2022 fiscal year, the Army was 15,000 soldiers short of its 60,000 target, a 25% deficit. The Navy and Marines Corps are also struggling to meet recruitment targets. The Marine Corps is about 20% down year on year, usually securing half of its target by October. The Navy, which usually opens the fiscal year at about 25% recruitment, reported 10% of the target in October, officials told the Associated Press. Previous attempts by the Pentagon to lower standards were harshly criticized. High school dropouts and drug convicts were given waivers. This is what I was telling you guys about earlier. So this is why they want, this is why they want the young who are high school dropouts, but also people with limited opportunities, limited college opportunities, limited employment opportunities. They want these people, the high school dropouts, the people who can't get into college, the people who can't get good jobs. They want these guys because they're easy flesh to enroll in their war machine. It mentioned high school dropouts. It mentioned drug convicts. These are the kind of people that are in the U.S. military, ladies and gentlemen. They will, and when it comes to drug convicts, Americans and America in general, American society, it will castigate these kinds of people look down on them, point at them, blame them, criticize them, castigate them. But when it comes to U.S. military service, they have no problem accepting them due to how low enlistment efforts are. They have no problem accepting them into the U.S. military, U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, U.S. Marines, and so on. High school dropouts and drug convicts were given waivers to sign up during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Of course they were. In Iraq and Afghanistan, of course they were. And you had these same fucking druggies commit war crimes, leading to an increase in mental health issues and suicides within the ranks. Thankfully, and the more Americans are aware of these mental health issues and suicides that are a result of the war machine, hopefully the sign of light here is hopefully that conveys to them not to sign up for the U.S. military or any branch of the U.S. military. Decades earlier, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara drafted as many as 320,000 unfit and low IQ soldiers. Let me read that again. Low IQ soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen at the height of the Vietnam War. So, if you're low IQ, and this is during the Vietnam War, if you don't have an advanced degree, or if you're low IQ, your intelligence and lack of academic pursuit is low, that's the kind of people they want in the U.S. military. That's the kind of people who they will enlist and draft in the U.S. military. This happened in the Vietnam War. Let me read that again. Decades earlier, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara drafted as many as 320,000 unfit, meaning physically unfit, and low IQ soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen at the height of the Vietnam War. They want these dummies to enlist in the war, in their war effort, because they're easy, they're moldable, their brains are moldable. You can easily brainwash them versus somebody who has intellect, versus somebody who is academically, who will pursue their academia, who will pursue their academics in academia. You can mold them. These are the kinds of people that they want in the U.S. military and in every branch of the U.S. military. These substandard service members were unflatteringly dubbed McNamara's morons by the media at the time. Unfortunately, we don't have an independent and free media. We have a corporate media that is beholden to the U.S. Government. So they're not as brave and courageous and independent and free enough to make a kind of statement like this today in our time. But they were dubbed McNamara's morons. Really good article by Russia Today. Wall Street Journal first reported on this. U.S. military hires recruits diagnosed with behavioral disorder. And my final thoughts on this are, it's dangerous because you're having people with behavioral mental health issues. And but they're needing numbers. They're needing numbers to throw flesh at the war grinder, because the war grinder needs flesh. But that's what I have to say. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. If you're on Twitter or listening to this on the podcast, tweet me how you feel about this topic. Take care.